So, Shannon, is Favre right about all of this?
Well, Skip, we talked about this on Monday. Actually, we talked about it on Friday because the draft was Thursday night. And when they traded up, I said they have Aaron Rodgers' undivided attention because he was in a very similar situation. They drafted him. Now, he fell into their laps when they had Brett Favre on the roster. And so he understands. And he's looking at it kind of like Brett looked at it. Brett looked at when they drafted Aaron Rodgers, how does a quarterback help us win immediately? That's for the future. So in other words, you're telling me you feel better going forward in the future with him than you do me. Aaron Rodgers looks at it the very same way, Skip. He's like, oh, okay, I see how y'all guys doing it. And, they gave you this. And Bob McGuinn talked about it yesterday, Skip. In his article, he said it was about the running game. Nah, Skip, this ain't about no running game. You could have anybody. You could have anything other than a wide receiver or tight end or replacing the offensive lineman that they lost to the Chargers. Aaron Rodgers was going to be viewed as a slight. And especially, he's looking at like, all I have is Devontae Adams, really. And you've really never given me a first-round draft pick at the receiver position. And so he's looking at it like, man. And Skip, this is why I always tell people that's close to me, family members, when you say something, what do people, Skip, even though Brett says, yeah, I spoke to him, I'm not going to get into depth about what we talked about. This is just my gut feeling. What is everybody assuming first thing Thursday morning? Who said everything Brett Favre is regurgitating? One, Aaron Rodgers. Now, they made a situation, they talk about Aaron Rodgers and how quirky he is and his mannerism. Oh, it's about to get real uncomfortable, Skip. As T.O. would say, get your popcorn ready. Skip, get your popcorn ready because it's about to get real bumpy over the next 2 years. And I don't believe they can do anything with Aaron for the first 2 years because that contract kind of makes him untradeable and very uncuttable. But after 2 years, it becomes palatable for them to move on in a different direction. And if they do decide to move in a different direction, Skip, we just saw Tom Brady pack his bag and head south. We saw Joe Montana do it. We saw Emmitt Smith do it. We saw Jerry Rice do it. So he will not be the first great player if he wants to continue playing. And Skip, you remember about right after the season, he says, I'm on the 18th fairway or something like the 18th green or something like that. All of a sudden, Skip, he's playing backwards. Aaron Rodgers is going to play until his 40s because he wants to do exactly what Tom Brady did. He wants to show them, what, that wanted to move in a different direction without him, I can still play, and I can play at a high level. The only difference between Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers, it would not shock me that Aaron stayed somewhere very close so he could see the Packers on a regular occurrence. He wants to stick it to them because he feels slighted because of what they did. And so I'm not surprised he feels this way. I've always said this, Skip. I believe the quarterbacks, I know this to be true, have the biggest egos. They do the best job of hiding it until they feel very, very threatened, and then they can't control it anymore.
Okay, my turn. First of all, I have to comment on what's happening right before our very eyes, my widening eyes. Wait a second. Brett Favre is speaking to and speaking for Aaron Rodgers? Look, I know we're all going through things we've never been through in our lives. Everything seems upside down. I know in our household where I'm speaking from right now, I can't believe I'm doing Undisputed from up here in my loft at the house in which Ernestine and Hazel and I share. And yet, it makes everything out in the world feel wrong. It's everything's upside down. Day is night, night is day. And all of a sudden, Brett Favre, who had no use for Aaron Rodgers, those two reportedly didn't speak to each other for years. All of a sudden, not only have they mended fences and made peace, but wait a second. Now, Brett Favre is Aaron's big brother. He's become his confidant. He's become his PR director and spokesman. Well, wait. No, I can't wrap my mind around this. And to your point, you're right. he kept indicating to Rich Eisen in the interview, I did speak to Aaron about this. I don't want to speak for him, but I'll just tell you this much. Bam, 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 bam. And you're like, yeah, I think he's spilling all the beans all over the airwaves. Yeah. And I think we're talking about it because Brett Favre spoke for Aaron Rodgers. The bridge is burned. He wants out. Don't be surprised if now he wants to go somewhere else. Well, again, none of this is shocking to me, but here's the ultimate irony of this and the reality of it. In the end, Shannon, I still think Brett has now lost all objectivity on Aaron because they're like become brothers from another mother. Mm-hmm. And now Brett doesn't see the forest for the trees. Again, yes, the bridge is burned to the ground, but he's putting it in the context of Green Bay, you just screwed up. You just made a huge mistake. You just stepped in it, Packers. You blew this one. No, Brett, you don't get it. You're looking at it upside down. They intended to burn the bridge to the ground. They set it on fire. They're not going to rush to put it out. No, they're pouring gasoline on the fire under the bridge as it burns to the ground. Because we talked about this. We talked about the Bob McGinn article. Matt LaFleur, after 1 year with Aaron Rodgers, is sick and tired of his act, his diva act, all that goes with Aaron Rodgers, all the blame deflecting, finger pointing, all the passive aggressive behavior via interviews and social media. They're sick and tired of it. Gutekunst, the fairly new GM, and LaFleur, the 1 year head coach. And Shannon, this was their design. This is what they wanted to happen. And they are going to slowly push Aaron Rodgers away by doing one of two things. In order, they drafted A.J. Dillon in the second round, and there was a report in the Milwaukee Sentinel Journal Sentinel, that said that they want to now hammer the rock next year. They want A.J. Dillon, who was high carries. He was averaging around 300 carries a year at Boston College. 250 pounds, ran 4.5 at the combine, Derrick Henry-esque. They're going to take the ball out of Aaron's hands the next year or two and try to run it the way the Tennessee Titans did down the stretch as they made their big playoff splash last year. And then, number two, they want to slowly but surely replace Aaron Rodgers with the kid they took late in the first round, traded up to take, Jordan Love. So again, Brett's acting like, uh-oh, you guys blew this. No, they're right on schedule. And again, if they're wrong about Jordan Love, then they're dead wrong. They better be as right about Jordan Love as Ted Thompson was about Aaron Rodgers. Yes, if they're right about that, then bully for them. But the bridge was burned by the Packers on purpose, intentionally. Brett Favre, you don't get it.
Skip, if they're wrong about this, they're about to have a gap like they had between Bart Starr and Brett Favre. That's what's going to happen. It's almost like a Dan Marino situation. When he retired in 2000, it wasn't until 2020 they finally think they have his adequate replacement. And they've had how many different quarterbacks in Miami? Skip, and we're going to talk about this a little later. There's a very similar situation that's going on north. That's in the Eagles. That's in a very, very similar situation because of what transpired. Now, we get that Aaron Rodgers is, 36, 37 years of age. Carson Wentz is only 27 years of age. Skip, I think the thing is for Aaron Rodgers now is that he realized, and even Brett, Skip, sometime you realize that some things that you did in the past you could have handled differently, and the outcome might have been a little differently. You might have had a better relationship because, Skip, when you're in this game, Skip, you hope to you leave with two things, the most important, money and memories. You want a lot of both. And you don't really want bad memories. You want the memories to be enjoyable. I don't want to look back and like, man, I didn't give Aaron Rodgers the time of day in the meeting room. I didn't do anything I could to help him. Again, not to get too far off subject, Skip, but this is LeBron and Jordan. Remember, LeBron says, I can understand what he was going through. Who can understand better what Aaron Rodgers is going through than Brett Favre, who had it happen to him 12, 13 years ago, Skip? Who understands that any better than Brett Favre? No one. And so he's, like you said, he's become Aaron Rodgers' official mouthpiece. So in other words, Aaron doesn't do any talking. Man, that's Brett. I didn't say that. Brett's talking for himself. He told you. Yeah, that was just his gut. Skip, everybody knows. Skip, when you get upset, you vent to people. And people are like, yeah, I talked to him. Yeah, he was upset, but, that's just me. This is what I gathered from it. You gathered from it because that's what he told you. Skip, the Packers really put themselves in a pickle, and maybe you're right. Maybe they wanted to be here all along. But, Skip, sometimes, and I've seen this actually happen before, when players are really, really good, and they're like, what's the way I want to say, they call them, the D word. When a team gets an opportunity to get you up out of there, they swing the hammer. A prime example is Antonio Brown, Skip. As soon, because he was not, how long do you think, Skip, AB had been missing practice and cutting out on meetings and being what he was being? But as soon as they got the opportunity and they felt, Mike Tomlin always says, we'll tolerate you until we can replace you. And boom. And now they believe they can replace Aaron Rodgers. I give it 2 years, Skip. I'm going to say 2 years. I don't see it going past 2020. The 2022 season, I said there's more than an 85% chance Aaron Rodgers is playing for someone else if he decides to continue to play.
You could be right about 2 years. But again, Brett Favre is saying, you guys, you better be ready. He's going to want out. No, Brett. They're daring Aaron to demand a trade. That's the only way out of this. They obviously can't cut Aaron. They've given him way, way too much money to just cut him because the dead money on the cap would be lethal to the Packers. But if they could get Aaron to the point where he demanded a trade and they had a desperate trade partner for Aaron Rodgers at 37 years of age, maybe even at 36, maybe going to next year, then I believe the Packers would do that. I don't know if they'd want to cut bait just yet before they see what they have in Jordan Love, obviously, at least in some form of training camp and maybe in some game action next year. But the point is, they are daring Aaron to demand a trade because I think that's their ultimate end game. And I do agree with you. Brett is the one man who can understand that, appreciate it, and relate to it. But in the end, remember, this situation is so different than what Brett originally went through. Back to the Bob McGinn article, and for those who don't know, Bob McGinn covered the Packers for 38 years. He is the ultimate authority on all things Green Bay. He knows where the bodies are buried. And his point is that if you look back to, let's just take the 2 years leading up to Aaron Rodgers being drafted by the Packers, Bob McGinn always gives a letter grade. He's a harsh grader, but he gives the quarterback a letter grade off each full season, including the playoffs. He had given Brett Favre B+, B+, the 2 years leading up to that draft. Aaron Rodgers, these last, just take 2 years, C+, C+, and called those 2 seasons by Aaron pedestrian. I've told you that just statistically, Aaron has declined steadily over the last 3 years. The stats just scream he's in free fall as an aging quarterback. Had his lowest QBR of his career this past year. Ironically, they're going 13-3 in the process. They're winning games that you say, how did they do that? I don't know. And it seemed like Aaron Jones was more of the MVP than Aaron Rodgers. But Aaron also plummeted last year to 21st in completion percentage. So he wasn't putting up the numbers that a winning quarterback usually would put up. But you can't argue with, they got to the NFC Championship game. But inside the Packers, they're saying, no, we don't love what we're seeing and where it's heading. And we have to position ourselves to transition quickly to Jordan Love. C+, C+, 2 pedestrian seasons. So now my final point to you, Shannon Sharpe, is you dared to broach the subject again of LeBron could relate to Michael Jordan cradling that first NBA championship trophy and crying.
Yes.
And I just can't let you get away with that again because it's so wrong. LeBron has no idea what Michael Jordan was feeling at that moment because LeBron can't relate. Michael Jordan had to fight through the bad boy Pistons, the baddest boys on defense ever there was. There were no rules except football rules. And Michael Jordan, in successive years, won against the Pistons 1 playoff game, 2, 3, and then he swept them with 4 playoff wins to get to Magic's Lakers to win his first championship. And to me, that struggle was so different than a LeBron struggle in which he had gotten wiped out by the Spurs in a sweep finals, and then he had melted down like no superstar ever in his other finals against the Dallas Mavericks. He had, quote-unquote, quit, said his owner, against the Boston Celtics, and he had disappeared against the Orlando Magic when we all thought he was going to play Kobe in the finals. Like, those are epic fails, and Michael had just an epic struggle. So I just can't let you get away with that. No, LeBron couldn't relate, but yes, Brett could relate.
Skip, I'll put it to you like this, Skip. You go to church and you read the Bible. The Bible speaks of famine. The Bible speaks of leprosy, how locusts invaded and just took away everything. Now, the people that suffer from leprosy, are you saying they don't know the struggle of the people that suffer from famine? If there's death? See, what you're trying to do, all I'm saying is he went through something, okay? He had to get through the bad boy Pistons. LeBron had to overcome the big 3 Celtics. He had to overcome the 2011 finals and what happened. Yes, Skip, all I'm saying is that, yes, they're different players and their paths of how they ultimately won the title might be different. But what he's feeling, having to overcome all of that, is very similar. That's all he said. He didn't say, well, it took Michael 7, it took me 7. And I did this and he did that. All he's saying, I know what Michael overcame, seeing Michael and watching this firsthand, seeing it. I can understand what he's feeling because I felt the very same thing having to overcome. Now, back on topic, Skip Bayless. You always try to do that. See, here's the thing, Skip. If we measure our greatest by their greatest seasons, they'll never get another A again. Because if you measure Patrick Mahomes by 50 touchdowns, 5,000 yards, so if he doesn't do that again, he's never able to get an A. Because of what Bob McGinn, I believe, is doing, if you measure Aaron Rodgers by 45 and 6, yeah, you're right, he's going to get a C+. Just like if you measure Tom Brady by 50 and 8, yeah, he looks terrible. But I don't do it like that, Skip. And there's a difference is the reporters, and I'm not saying Bob McGinn is guilty of this, but the reporters like Brett Favre a lot more than they like Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers makes it very easy for you not to like him. And that's okay. I don't got no problem with that. You do how you do long as you get the job done. You treat me good, you can treat everybody else how you treat them. But I'm going to address you if you treat me a certain type of way. But, Skip, you know how Aaron is. Aaron makes no apology for sometimes his condescending. He's very condescending. He's very dismissive. And sometimes that rubs people the wrong way. That's going to rub most people the wrong way. Here's the people that support Aaron and are close to Aaron, they don't have a problem with it. But I think it rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. He's been that way. And so I think the Packers let's go ahead and take the upper hand back. Because for me, Skip, they could have been total pricks about the whole thing. They're like, nah, we're not going to extend you like they did Tom Brady and take a quarterback, which would have exacerbated, which would have sped up the process. I'm not so sure Aaron would have requested a trade today or yesterday or the day before had they done that.
Okay, but the difference in Brett Favre at that point in his career when they drafted Aaron Rodgers was I thought he was still playing at a very high level, and he believed he had a whole lot left in his tank, and he was right because he had one of his greatest years, obviously, a couple of years later at Minnesota, in which we was, 33 touchdowns to 6 interceptions, took them all the way to overtime at the NFC Championship game, the Bounty Bowl. Yeah. And the point is, he was extraordinary in that year, had the greatest 40-year-old season we'd ever seen until we got to Tom Brady. And he was still on the rise to me. And remember, they didn't trade up for Aaron Rodgers. They just sat there at 24 and thought,
right,
gee, nobody's going to take him. He might have gone first in the draft, first overall. They took Alex Smith in San Francisco.
Right.
And he just is falling. Well, okay, we'll take him at 24. These guys had a master plan in place in which they said, if Jordan Love starts to fall, we are going to go up there. We're trading up to snatch him. We want Jordan Love. It felt like it was their game plan going in to find a way to get Jordan Love. And they're basically telling Aaron, no, we don't think you have that much left. So again, I think he's bound to land somewhere else. There'll be a big trade of him going somewhere else. And then we'll see if he can repeat what Brett Favre did at age 40 and see if he can be that guy late in his career once he leaves Green Bay.
Thank you for watching. You can subscribe here to get the latest from the show, and be sure to check out more of the best clips from Undisputed, or go watch a few other segments from our other shows on FS1.